All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back for another awesome episode, another amazing guest. Today, we've got James Pratt of Pratt Performance Systems out in Martinsville, New Jersey, one of the local gyms that I respect the hell out of. I wish there were more like it. And we're going to have him on here to pick his brain. He's been a trainer for pretty much 15 years, if my math is correct. Graduated from Keene University, has the education in this stuff. Former lineman, so you know he's a hard worker. And yeah, this is going to be a great episode. I'm looking forward to it. Welcome, James.
What's up, Ryan? Thank you for the intro. Yeah, hard worker at offensive line, but also love to eat. Those are the two things you could take away from an offensive lineman.
There's pros and cons. Yeah, I was a tight end DN, so I'm like, I don't belong to wideouts. I don't belong to linemen. I'm just that awkward middle child.
Yes. Like some drills, it's like, okay, go with the offensive line and do that. Some drills, it's like, okay, go with the receivers. But you don't really have your own home.
Nope. You're just floating the entire time and nobody wants you there. So yeah, it's beautiful. But yeah, so I mean, like I said in the beginning, I know like how you guys run things is very similar to how things were run where I used to work, and it's this small group model of gym training that I wish would be more popular. I really like it needs to be accessible to everybody. So let's dive into that a little bit to start. Like, let's tell everybody like kind of how Pratt Performance Systems runs. So if they have something similar to them close by, like they'll know, oh, this is kind of like that.
Yeah, I completely fell in love with the semi-private / small group personal training model. Probably originally when I was at Vince's place interning back in 2011, 2010, 2011. And I just thought it was cool because the trainer was a little bit more active, jumping around, interacting with multiple people, but still having respect for the customization of the programs and able to still kind of interact with people individually, which I thought was really cool. Then fast forward to Cosgrove, some of the stuff that he was doing at Results Fitness out in California, stumbling across that information. Rick Mayo from Alloy, I think listening to some of his information was really helpful. For personal training for me, when I was doing one-on-ones for a while, it seemed to make a ton of sense to make the transition to small group because I had a lot of one-on-one members and I felt like it was the right time to kind of attempt to make the jump. So essentially, what we do and what I've always tried to keep it as close to as humanly possible is I sold my existing one-on-one members on the fact that you're going to get the same exact treatment. You're going to get the same workout routine. You're just going to do it in a group and you're going to pay 70% less to do it. Also, we may not be able to talk about your family as much as we do or your pets, but I'm sure you're okay with that.
And that's kind of been some people.
Yeah, 100%. But that's kind of been the North Star throughout the whole process is like, how do you give somebody one-on-one training while not having them pay an arm and a leg? The analysis that I did on one summer, it was like a 4-month analysis I did on my members' attendance. My average member that I loved, and I thought they loved me, they were coming 1.5 days per week. So I was kind of like upset. I was like, what gives? Like, what's up with some of you guys that aren't coming to the gym 3 days a week? They're like, dude, it's $110 an hour. Like, even if this was amazing, I'm not paying $330 a week for one-on-one training. And I'm like, well, are you working out on your own or anything? No, it's just, this is what I'm going to do. So how do I solve this problem? Luckily, some people already had and kind of showed the ropes of the semi-private and small group model. So I just went all in on that. And basically, it is as one-on-one of an experience as humanly possible, a trainer responsible for multiple people simultaneously within each hour, and trying to be as personal as possible, both with the treatment of the individual and the programming of their training session.
Yeah. And it is pretty wild how personal the experience can be. Because, I mean, that's basically where I cut my teeth training is doing small group for 7 years. And it's pretty nuts. Like, I remember Vince came in and said, hey, we're going to switch to 1 to 6. And we're like, how in the hell is that going to work? And then we gave it a try and we're like, oh, this still works and people are still loving it. And if anything, the group makes them like tighter because like I remember the bonds that people created, it became this communal thing. Like that 7 a.m. crew, they were buds. Like it had so many benefits.
Yeah, 100%. And none of it is forced, I think, in the small group model, which I think is a huge piece to it. Because I don't know what the percentage would be, but there's so many people that seem to come in, and some people are like, I don't really want to interact in the group thing. I don't want to do the breakdowns. I don't want to rah rah. And then some other people are like, I'd really like to make some friends. And there seem to be a couple people here that are like me, that if I start a conversation with, I can organically create a friendship that isn't forced by the trainer. So it kind of breeds its own level of friendship, and it's
Yeah.
not forced by the staff.
Yeah, and what I found interesting too is I actually would like pick the brains of some of the people there, and one was actually a lawyer. I won't give him up and expose him, but I'm like, this guy's a freaking genius. He signed up solely so he could talk to people, and he generated business. He's like, this membership pays itself over like 10 times. I'm like,
100%.
you are a genius.
100%. You'll get that a lot with we see a couple of real estate agents that are in
Hmm.
there that find a way to talk about the market, the housing market with some people. Definitely, we have a couple of lawyers, a couple of doctors too. But yeah, some people are definitely making their membership back over in their own individual business. It's smart.
Yeah. Talk about investing in your health and it paying you back so well. It's great. Now, on that note, like talking about like the general person, like I know when you were working at Test, which is where like your facility is currently, right? It's still like in Test.
Yes.
Yeah. So when you were training the athletes, like for anybody listening right now, Test is one of these places that like trains people for the combine, like the NFL combine, some insane athletes. And I know General Pop, sometimes people are like, I really want to train like the athletes. What are the big differences when it comes to Gen Pop versus these guys that are like the genetic freaks of the world?
Yeah. Yeah, great question. The big thing, number one, is like in terms of movement patterns, there are some things that we have to do with athletics that kind of venture into higher velocity activities, jumping, throwing medicine balls, sprinting, changing directions. Some stuff that we need to establish a level of tolerance in the adult population if we ever wanted to do it with them. That being said, we don't do a ton of it. And if we do, it's usually at a very low level from an adult standpoint. Most of our adults are in there to look better and feel better. And then what we'll pretty much do from a conditioning standpoint is integrate some level of plyometric activity when necessary or higher velocity activities. But we kind of like throw that into the conditioning bucket more so than anything else. But if there's one big differentiator, it's that we are aggressively pursuing higher velocity activities with athletes for Pratt personal training with our athlete department. And of course, back in the day when I was doing some combine training with those athletes, we are really emphasizing high speed activities versus with the adult population. We're really only nibbling on those categories when necessary.
Yeah. And I mean, all you really need is a nibble, right? Because when we're talking about things like fall prevention or just trying to be that step quicker on the pickleball court or like hit it a little bit further on the golf course, like what do you find are the most beneficial when it comes to the certain types of movements, like when it comes to power development for somebody who is the average person just trying to feel a little bit better?
Yeah, 100%. So on top of like a base level foundation of some sort of strength, any sort of pogo jumps for lower body where we're having some ground contacts at a decent volume, but not too high of an intensity, where they're doing like repeat vertical jumps and landing with a lot of impact on like a single leg or a double leg. So like pogo jumps have been somewhat of a steal. Any line jumping variation going side to side or forwards and backwards just to move in different planes. Medicine ball throws are a steal, and pretty much any activity that the adults are doing these days from age 40 to 70 involves some sort of rotation. So if you just give somebody a medicine ball and you say, hey, give me your best pickleball swing, give me your best tennis swing, give me your best golf swing here, then they'll see that there's obviously some carryover from the pattern of which they're performing with the medicine ball versus what they do on the golf course.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought up medicine balls because that and turf are like the two things I wish like every gym was required to have because they make such a big difference. And
Oh
every
yeah.
medicine ball that you see that's like the leather ones in the gym is always like beat to hell. They're like one step away from popping open and you're like, well, I can't do much with this.
Yeah. A quick story about the our wall. We recently just had we just put $250,000 worth of equipment in there,
Yeah.
and the biggest issue is like we don't know where to put this last piece, and we can't have it take away from the wall because that's where we do our rotational throws, and 20% of our population loves rotational throws. And they are in the we are going to perform some athletic movements type of bucket of population. So we actually put the piece of equipment in front of the wall, and there was an uprising. So so we quickly moved equipment back around and made that wall available. But that was one of those. It's like, hey, we're going to try this, and we're going to try to reason with our members that any slam variations or rotational slam variations are going to be good enough. But
Yeah.
the members just love throwing the ball against the wall so much that we had to end up moving the equipment again.
It's so funny you say that because now I'm getting flashbacks of the people that you're like, you see them whipping the ball and you're like, this is going to be an interesting session.
100%.
You're like, this person's got some demons. Let's go.
Yep. Oh, and we've had that. We've had that too. For some people have come in. There's a few people that stand out, but they've come in. They said, "Hey, instead of the bike, can I throw the ball really hard against the wall?" And yeah, absolutely. It's available. Grab a medicine ball. Go do your thing for 4 minutes.
There you go. There you go. Doesn't have to be super particular. It's like, are we warming up? Are we elevating tissue temperature? Are you waking up a little? Good. All right.
Yep, 100%.
And I'm glad that you brought up the equipment because you guys definitely have an interesting setup because it feels like a lot of the gyms nowadays kind of just fall into one bucket where it's like you got the CrossFit gyms that are bare bones. They've got like just plates and bars and racks, and that's about it. And then you've got Planet Fitness with every machine known to man. And you guys have a nice little mix in there, and it's all on turf, which is awesome.
Yep.
What do you like? I'm trying to figure out how to frame this question, but like if you were to make a nice little mix of your favorite pieces of equipment, like if it was like the world's like perfect at-home gym, what would it be?
Yeah, love that. Great question. So ultimately, in trying to set up our gym, we basically said like, what do we think would be the perfect way to train the adult population? It's like, do we need racks? Yeah, probably. Do we need a lot of them? Probably not. Benches, do we need those? Dumbbells, kettlebells, we need those? Yes. And we probably need more of those than anything else. And then machines, what are like the 4 to 6 really good ones that we really love that we can kind of triple down on and get 3 of each piece to make sure that we have enough to customize programs? Because what we wouldn't get away with is in your average commercial gym setup, there's one piece of many different pieces of equipment, which makes sense from a commercial standpoint. Someone comes in, they prefer this piece, they get to do that lat pull down instead of the plate loaded one. Totally makes sense. But in a small group training environment, you kind of have to choose which ones you want to go to war with and that you're going to program at a higher volume. So for me, if I'm setting up a gym at home, I definitely want a rack. I definitely want some dumbbells and kettlebells. And then for pulling musculature outside of the dumbbell rows, I'm sure, as you know, you run into every day when you're programming for your at-home clients. If you're doing a back exercise, single arm double rows is pretty much like the bread and butter, and everything else is kind of like, hey, here's some variation. So lat pull down tower or any sort of cable tower would be huge. We use that a ton. We have the seated row lat pull down combo, which is a lifesaver. And then any sort of cable connection where you could do unilateral pulling variations from high to low. But I would love a lat pull down tower if I were in there, a cable tower. And then outside of that, is anything else like mandatory? Probably not. But if I really wanted to splurge, I'm probably getting a hack squat.
Yeah.
Love that piece.
Assuming that you have a crap ton of space.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And actually on that topic of like the lat pull downs, like that would be awesome. And one thing I came across last year that I tell all of my at-home clients to get, but the people that do really love it, is an anchor system, like Anchor. And those surprised me. They were actually like, holy crap, this provides a lot of resistance.
Yeah. And that's where you put the plates on the other side, right?
And yeah, it's like all like through wind, like turbines inside of the things. So it says like 5 pounds or 10 pounds, and you just slide it on, and there's 5 more pounds.
Yeah. Wow. Good to know. Yeah, that would have saved me $150,000 if you told me that before.
Probably. Probably never too late for a garage sale. And it's funny that you brought up the rows too, because I remember during COVID, like when we were programming for people at home, they're like, is there anything else other than rows? I feel like we do rows every single week. And I'm like, do you not want to work your back?
Yeah.
I don't know what else to give you.
The same thing when we were doing Zoom workouts, we got to the point where we just told everybody, like literally, we are going to do single arm dumbbell rows every single workout. It is going to be your pulling exercise, just so you guys know. So you don't even have to ask, you don't have to bring it up. And you could already expect to do them, so you don't even have to be bored or angry when I say it on Zoom.
Damn, that would have been ideal. Just getting ahead of it and being like, fair warning, like just so you know.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. And on the topic of programming, like I know that you guys do like a lot of tailored programming, right? Like you pretty much everybody that walks in has a plan where it's like, we're going to do this specific set of exercises. And I know a lot of people listening right now probably go to YouTube or Instagram and they're like, new program every single day. What's your opinion on like what would be best when it comes to somebody who's trying to get the best results, but doesn't really know what to do from a programming standpoint?
Yeah. The biggest thing that I want to make clear, because I've gone on tangents before about the pro custom programming stuff ad nauseum. And I think sometimes it makes people think that if I'm not doing this, then it's not good enough and I should do nothing. So to be clear, if you are doing something active and not on the couch, that is a huge win. Let's start there. Two, in regards to what you kind of pointed out of like, should I go to YouTube and pick out a workout and do this? I think that's pretty good. But if I were to try to maximize my results from a training standpoint, I'd probably want to perform the best exercises that I could possibly think of for lower body, upper body, and core exercises and anything athletic or conditioning. And then after that, I would want to progressively overload them. And basically, in order to do that, I need to appropriately mathematically calculate me progressing as a human being performing these exercises. I need to keep the exercises the same. That needs to be a static variable. And then to see that I'm improving on a week-to-week basis, I need to make something challenging in some way, shape, or form. So whether it's performing more reps, or it's going heavier, or it's resting less between the sets. So something has to make the workouts more challenging over time. Now, something we frequently talk about is with the same exercises, and they're getting harder, the likelihood for boredom and or things are getting so challenging that I just would like to travel a different road happens all the time. But if you stay the course for the appropriate period of time and you finish that program, the feeling of accomplishment that you will get knowing that I did this program, it started off pretty easy. It got to the point that it was really challenging, but I got all the way through it. And now I can change some variables via exercise primarily. I could change some exercises and I could progressively overload all over again. And that is such a huge thing that I think a lot of people don't really get to experience that I wish they did.
Yeah. Because it seems like there is a big push online for like new workout every day. New, like you need the variety. You got to confuse the muscles.
Yeah, I think it's marketing 101. I think at the end of the day, it's like if I know right now, if I did that, if I went online and I just said like, hey, here's a workout today, and everyone who does this workout, tune back in tomorrow because there will be a different one. You're more likely to actually tune in comparison to me saying, here's a workout and we're going to do the same exact workout every single day, but we're just going to make it a little bit harder. You're probably not going to tune in tomorrow. But no. I promise you, it's probably better for you if you did.
Yep. It's almost like the more boring you make the workout, the better your results are going to be.
100%. 100%. And I think I put out a post today, and I love all your Instagram posts, by the way. But I put out a post today of like, what are some ways that you could take the best exercises and just have a minor variation to them so they're kind of different, but you're still doing the best exercises. And I think that's something that we do really well because we don't get into the crazy exercise. It's not like, hey, I want to go outside and swing a sledgehammer to a tire. It's like, great, that's awesome, but that's not going to make the progressive overload cut of exercises that you'll be doing in the gym. But I mean, we can do some sort of rotational pattern, and we could do a cable chop, and we can call it similar in movement,
Yeah.
and we could progressively overload that over the course of 6 weeks. And that's kind of the route that we go with things like that. And there's all these variables that you could potentially manipulate that aren't the exercise, that probably are nuanced enough for you to stay psychologically fresh to want to do it. And I think that's what we really like. We are in the business of psychology
Mm-hmm.
more so than anything else.
Wish I realized that on day one.
Yeah, same.
Like, honestly, if I could go back, it's like, I know there's a lot of people that do exercise science, kinesiology degrees, but I'm like, if you want to get into personal training, psychology needs to be the name of the game.
Oh, 100%. Dude, I'll tell you firsthand, 2 months into my first full-time gig at Test, which I was a personal trainer all through college, but I was doing pre-C speed school. I was a trainer at Bally Total Fitness. It was like pretty much structured for you. But when I started writing programs for athletes, and I had a kid doing an exercise, and I said, hey, we're going to go up in weight. Last time it was pretty easy for you. And he said, no. I said, no, I'm not going to go up in weight because my dad told me I shouldn't. And I was like, I'm so confused. I'm like, this is what you're supposed to do. And I just didn't know how to handle that conversation. It was like, this kid said no to basic math of
Yeah.
like, this is what we have to do to get better. And I don't know how to deal with a human being disagreeing with me on an exercise science related topic. Aren't I the expert? But learning how to deal with those things, I think, is a huge differentiator in terms of training capability.
Yeah. And I think that that's why a lot of, like, it's one of the many things that gets lost in person versus online space. Like, being able to have those conversations one-on-one that you don't really get to experience when you hide behind this veil of, I am the man online, like, I am the expert. When somebody's got you face to face, you get like the real stuff.
Yeah, 100%. I commend you for it because I'm sure it's difficult. But in terms of like mandating adherence and holding people accountable to certain things, making sure they're pushing themselves, making sure they're telling you the truth, like that's a brutal gig. And I was telling you before we went on, like I played that game for a little bit, and it's very challenging. So I commend you for how hard you're going in that game right now.
I appreciate it because it's definitely one of those things. It's like a learned skill, and it's one of those, like, how we preach to clients. It's like you just kind of have to figure it out and accept the fact that we suck in the beginning. Like, if anybody listening right now is curious as to skill development, there's a really simple system. I think Louis Simmons made it up, where it's like Dave Tate. First you're shit, then you suck, then you're good, then you're great. And you got to be shit to get to great. So,
yep, 100%.
Yep. And now when we're on the topic of like skill development, I know that when it comes to working out, it's pretty obvious. It's like, okay, we're going to learn how to move. We're going to learn how to do it well, pain-free, and progress to get the results. Now, when it comes to nutrition, I know you went through your own journey, right? Like you were a high-level lineman, and you don't look like a big guy in the line anymore. So, like, in your own journey, what was it that you found the most helpful? And like, when you work with clients, what do you tell them to do that seems to be working really well?
Yeah, I just try to keep it as simple as possible. I think if there's anything that's more complex than exercise in terms of the amount of stuff that's out there versus the stuff that matters, nutrition is probably even worse than exercise. So in terms of my own rules, it's like back when I wanted to start losing weight, I said like, what should my calorie intake be? And I'm not going to sit here and write everything down on a day-to-day basis. So why don't I write it down once and do all the math behind it, make sure my calories are in check, make sure I'm getting enough protein. And then why don't I just eat that every single day? And that's pretty much what I did for a couple of years. And that probably netted me like 40 to 50 pounds of weight loss in a 2-year time frame. And then I started to get a little bit more creative and venturing off into eating different things. But to this day, like someone asked me earlier today, how many grams of protein you eat? I was like, I say 200 without even thinking, because that's been my answer for 15 years, Yeah. So just trying to stick to like 200-ish calories, trying to stay under 3,000. I'm sorry, trying to get 200 grams of protein, trying to stay under 3,000-ish calories. If I stick to that from an average standpoint over time, I generally get leaner. And when I don't, I don't.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really clear when you put the calories down. It's like, okay, this should work. And then when you fall off, it doesn't work. It's like, ah, magic.
Yeah, yeah, and that moment of telling yourself, I think I was at like 2,800 calories yesterday. Let me actually reflect. Oh wait, I had 4,400. Then you
Yep.
know that's being honest with yourself about those things is the most important, because the last thing that you really want to do is lie to yourself about what logically makes sense. And that unfortunately is what happens. I'm sure if you've done food logs before, like seeing people not accurately track, whether it's intentional or not, is irrelevant. It's a complicated game to try to appropriately food log, but just seeing how some people really struggle to accurately measure and track all these things makes it tough. So we just try to really just abide by some rules. You know, have some protein at breakfast, have some protein at night, drink plenty of water, get some sleep. Let's walk a few more steps, and I guarantee you're doing better than what you would have been doing had you not been doing this.
Exactly. Exactly. You just reminded me of one of my very first talks that I saw of Big Tom Langdon. Like he was the guy that like pretty much taught me nutrition, and he had a slide up, and it was a pregnant nun, and he's like, a lot of you in the audience right now, when you submit your food logs, it's a little bit like a pregnant nun. You're like, I don't know how it happened. And I'm
Wow.
like, wow, spot on.
That's amazing. I've never heard that, and oh, that could apply in so many different ways. I love that. That's amazing.
Because it's funny, like I mean, like I do fix my diet calls, and I'm like, all right, let's take a look at what they submit, and it's always like salad, 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 protein and veg at night, and I'm like, okay.
The best I'm sure you've had, the best conversation I think I ever have is when I'm talking to a member and they tell me about everything that they're doing, and then I ask, "What about Friday night?" And then
Yes,
just the look in their eyes, it's like, "Wait a second, that counts? Like that matters?" Yeah, unfortunately. But I'm sure, as you see, from Friday at 5 p.m. till Sunday at 10 p.m., the calories tend to be like triple to quadruple what they are Monday morning through Friday afternoon.
exactly. There's like, for some reason, when people start counting calories or they really dial it in, all of a sudden they forget that that doesn't include a cheat meal or a cheat day. It's like calories are calories. It's not you get extra today unless you're calorie cycling, which is a whole different can of worms.
Yeah.
And there's like some crazy stat out there. I forget exactly how much it was, but they like tested to see how off people are when they estimate how many calories they ate. And people that are untrained, have never done calories before, were off by an average of like 600. There goes your deficit right there. And even people that were trained for like 5, 10 years on counting their calories were still underestimating by like 2 to 300 calories.
Yeah, I remember seeing exactly that. That's spot on. But it was, what was crazy is that people that even like I'm telling you myself, like I've been roughly counting my calories since I was 18 years old. I remember writing in a journal in high school when I had to gain weight for college football that I was literally writing calories PCF and writing down my macronutrients. And today, to this day, after doing that for half my life, there are some days I will literally tell myself, oh, yeah, 2,500 calories. And then reflecting, honestly, I'm so far off from reality that it's very tough. So it's you're asking a lot if you're going to have everybody try to track these things. So habits and behaviors done consistently is really kind of the name of the game for where we are with our members of, hey, just do this. Don't think about anything else. Just try to succeed at this one thing. And I feel very confident in having our members do that because I personally have seen myself succeed in doing the one habit at a time type deal. And I've watched myself fail when I try to do more than that. So really trying to instill that on everybody else, I think, is what we've tried to do, whether it be, hey, just get here twice a week and nothing else in life matters. You know, just pretend. I know you have kids. I know you have a spouse, but the most important thing in the world is that you get to the gym twice a week for these next 6 weeks. Can we just agree to that? Great. And then at some point in time, let's add something else, whether it be, water consumption, protein, stuff like that.
Yeah. It really comes down to those big rocks. Because, I mean, like, we know exercise, independent of nutrition, has so many health benefits. Like, not to mention when people start exercising, all of a sudden they're like, I kind of want to increase the results. I want to eat a little bit better. And it's kind of this snowball that just gets going.
100%. Let them come to the conclusion, right? It's like,
Exactly.
hey, I'm going to steer you in this direction, and hopefully you bring to me that you are willing to do more, and then we can have that conversation.
Yep. I think it really comes down to like, have you ever seen Ethan Suplee, the guy from Remember the Titans? He
No.
was the really big lineman, and he lost like 300 pounds, I think. And he said something that apparently, when they survey people who have lost a significant amount of weight and kept it off, pretty much all kind of fall in line with, which is they had to adopt a new identity. They needed to become somebody different. And it's like, as long as we're doing these habits that solidify this new, better, improved identity, then we're going in the right direction.
That's so good. It's so good. Yeah, I am the type of person that does this. And I think you'll see that a lot when you're in the environment of people who are what you want to be.
Yeah.
When I'm around people that, if I go out and there's some people who are ordering healthier stuff and drinking less alcohol, like that, yeah, I'm like that. I'm one of these people. That's what I do. If I go
Yeah.
out with another group of people and there's a bunch of wings and we're drinking beer all night, I'm like, yeah, I'm one of the guys. I do this. And you just kind of like a chameleon your own identity in certain scenarios. But
Yeah.
yeah, 100%, 100%, so true.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny you bring that up because when I was at my draft that we did this past weekend, I'm like, I'll eat the pizza because, like, I personally know it fits into my plan, but everybody from the outside looking in is like, thought you were the fit guy. I'm like, I am. I'm just figuring it out.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Did you guys do a Pratt Systems NFL fantasy draft or no?
It's so funny. I just came from I was just at the bank, and the bank teller was telling me all about his fantasy draft, and I just told him an hour ago I've never done fantasy football ever
Wow.
because I've always been scared it would overconsume my life. Now
That's fair.
I did a basketball fantasy draft, and when I was in middle school, and I was obsessed, just
Well,
checking every day. I
to be
couldn't
fair,
wait to get home.
that's way more commitment. That is
Yeah,
so much more involved.
that's it, dude. I feel like I'm having the same conversation. He said the same thing, but what I told him, I was like, with everybody I talk to, it's like it sounds like you really have to be into it, and if I'm gonna do it, I want to win, and I don't even really like watch football as much as I did back in the day. So I've never done fantasy football. Many people find that odd.
Yeah. Hey, it is one of those things where it's like you're probably so much better off without it, but it's so hard to like say no.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, I to circle back because I definitely didn't want to miss this because I know when you were throwing out your stats, I know somebody listening right now was probably like, "Whoa!" And the big eye opener probably would be that 200 grams of protein. So for you, what's the easiest way to get that much? Because there's people listening right now that are like, I can't even crack triple digits. How the hell is this guy doing
Yeah. The first thing I would say is like, is it playing a role in every meal? Because for me, the most important thing was like, if every meal I have centers around protein, then it's actually pretty easy. And if I can kind of formulate a 4 meal model that has 50 grams of protein in each meal, for me, it's not super challenging. And I would debate that it's really not that challenging for many people. I'm probably a little bit bigger than the average person. So if we're talking about women that are, anywhere between 130 to 160 pounds, they probably don't need 200 grams of protein. But if they're above 115, 120 across 4 meals, that's 30 grams of protein. That doesn't really seem overwhelming. And I think pretty easy to get to. In terms of the foods, obviously meat plays a role in that. Chicken, turkey, fish, eggs, and egg whites are a big one for me. But I basically have all of my meals. I know a lot of people are huge fans of like the meat with the side of the vegetables and the rice. I just make a wrap for everything. Everything is a sandwich. The 100 calorie, the 100 calorie carb wraps that have 20 carbs in it, and I shove 40 to 50 grams of protein in there,
that?
and that's every meal.
Yeah. See, I'm the same way, but with bowls. Like everything's a bowl.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, that's great. And even better because your meals probably last 3 times longer than mine. And I'm a fan. Like when my girlfriend makes bowls for us for dinner, I love them. But when I'm here like by myself, I just grab some turkey, throw it on a wrap, put some mustard on it. I'm like, I'm good. And I just had 400 to 500 calories and 50 grams of protein. And that's kind of my, no pun intended, bread and butter.
Yeah. It's okay. Puns are allowed. And I like how you said that you're like, when your girlfriend makes it, you'll eat it, because I'm the same way. When my girlfriend makes salads, I refuse. Like, when I'm talking about eating vegetables, if I was to have your wrap, I'd be like, lettuce and tomato, that counts. Okay, that's my veggie. But when it comes to actual salads, unless my girlfriend makes it, like, I can't. I'm not good at it.
Yep, 100%. And she'll make vegetables all the time. I kind of skip over them or only have a little bit of them from here and there. I'm definitely not a great vegetable consumer. If there is one thing that I definitely want to improve on, it's water and vegetables. Two things I struggle with.
Yeah. And this is everybody listening. These are two fitness guys that struggle with something like eating vegetables. So just know it's not like anybody in fitness does all of this perfectly. These are struggles for everybody.
Yeah, 100%.
Now, speaking of that, were there any struggles that you overcame in your own fitness journey that you're like, that took a lot of work and a lot of intention on my part, and you feel like you're in a better place to help somebody else through it?
Yes. Yeah. Something I still probably struggle with is moderation of things that I like to consume. So it seems to me that most people don't have this issue as bad as I do. But if chocolate or peanut butter is available to me, and if you combine chocolate and peanut butter, forget about it. But if chocolate or peanut butter is available to me at a max dose, like unlimited, like buffet style chocolate or peanut butter, some bad things can really happen. I have some really good stories about the amount of peanut butter and chocolate I've consumed at once. So if I think anybody ever parallels that type of mindset towards certain things, it's like not having it available. It seems so obvious, but if it's not around, if you want it so bad that you're willing to get in the car and drive to the grocery store to get it, go have it. But if it's in your house, it's a potential recipe for disaster. And it's been my ability to lose body fat by not having certain foods in the house has been unbelievable. Now, I do have friends and family that keep a bunch of stuff in their house. If I go to their house, I usually consume it. And they were always like, oh, hey, like, what's your deal? You're the fitness guy. Why can't you stop eating this when it's around? I was like, well, I don't have it around, number one. So when it is around, I do get a little excited and I do eat more of it than probably you guys do. But what I would say to anybody that I've had this conversation with, and potentially some of my friends that are like maybe a little bit on the overweight side and want to lose body fat, they'll say, I eat it. I don't overconsume it the way you do. But I was like, but if at the end of the day you end up consuming this whole thing, do you really want it in the house over extended periods of time? Do you want, Kit Kat bars in your house accessible anytime you want? Because from what you tell me, once the weekend hits, you tend to have a lot of it. You have a few drinks, and then all of a sudden you had, 4 mini Kit Kat bars. And if you want those, that's fine. I just don't know if they need to be as accessible to you. So if you are one of those people that overconsumes a specific food to the point that it will always put you in a calorie surplus, it's fine to have. But if you really want it that bad, maybe putting a little bit of a barrier on its accessibility and having to get in the car. And if it's cold out, you got to put on a sweatpants and a sweatshirt. You got to start the car up. You got to drive to the grocery store and you have to buy it. If you want to do all that, then you should have it. But I think a lot of times we just eat it because it's available and it's convenient. And that's something that I want to personally avoid. And I recommend a lot of people try to avoid as well.
Yeah, very good point, because it really does prove how powerful environment is. When we can control things like that, it makes life so much easier. And it gets back to the fact that none of us are immune to these hyper palatable foods. It's almost like you're in my brain a little bit, because me and my girlfriend got one of those the Reese's ghosts now that they're out for Halloween. And she's like, all right, this will last us the week. And in the back of my head, I'm like, always surprised me last the night. We fit. When I say we, she had maybe 4. I had about 15, and housed it.
Oh yeah, yeah. I don't know if you've ever had the Reese's spread.
The spread now.
Yeah, they came out with a spread a while back. It's like a chocolate peanut butter spread. And I got one of those thinking similarly of like, I'm going to get this and I'll have a little bit each night for the next week or so, small jar. But that jar had 2,100 calories in it. I ate it in about 6 minutes. And that was a huge, like, this is when I was living on my own. I was like, I just can't have food like this in my house. There's no point. And then another time, I think my real famous story of overconsumption of peanut butter was the Costco, the 2 jars of it, peanut butter, chunky. I hadn't had chunky peanut butter in forever. I would usually get the smooth. So I get the chunky peanut butter that has 41 servings, I believe, in each jar. And both of them were gone in 5 days. And I don't remember. I try to forget the total calories of peanut butter over the course of those 5 days, but it was insane. So peanut butter is banned for me.
I'm with you there. Peanut butter, and in this house specifically, goldfish are banned. Because you know how they started making the gallons of them?
Oh, yeah.
I have finished one of those in a day. So goldfish are not allowed in this house.
Yeah. Yeah. One day I plan on having kids running around, and I'm going to have a serious conversation with them about why their friends are allowed to have certain foods in their house and why we don't. And I'll find the right way to spin it. I haven't figured it out yet, but one day I'm going to have that conversation. And I have some years to get ready for it.
Yeah. I've heard that John Berardi is a very good resource when it comes to that, because his explanation to his kids, I remember hearing it. I don't remember it verbatim, but I'm like, I got to take notes for the future. Like,
yeah,
this is gold.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, send me that.
I know it had to do with, like, if I was going to paraphrase it, basically the way that he lays it out. And anybody listening, feel free to use this for your kids, is like, there's food for our body and then there's food for our soul. And you need both. But the amount for your body is like that 80%, and then the soul is for 20%. So then when you're breaking down the plate, it's like, okay, we have the meat here, we have the veggies here, and then that covers most of the plate. And then we're going to save this little sliver for like a few pieces of candy, like if
Nice.
you really want it.
Love it. That's amazing.
Yeah. And his stuff's just wild. I love it. But I think to bring it back to what we were talking about, how these things are triggers. It's very easy to binge on these. It's also made worse by the fact that most people are unconsciously setting themselves up for a binge when they diet, going so low into the calories that they feel like garbage, telling themselves that I can't have this food, and then building up that resistance where we all have that inner toddler that's like, don't eat the cookie. And you're like, now I want the cookie.
Oh yeah, 100%. I personally have that 100%. But yeah, trying to sustain, like, in psychologically knowing that I could probably eat 2,800 calories and consider it a green check mark type of day, I think is helpful. It's like, I go to Dunkin' Donuts around the corner every morning. I don't know if you've been keeping up with my shot percentage on the straw wrapper, but I'm at 20% of the beer pong shot straw wrapper into the garbage. But sometimes I'll go in there and they'll give me a donut for free. And I went through a good period of, you know what, like, I'm going to selflessly walk across the street to the gym and I'm going to give this to one of my staff. But a lot of times I have it. And then when I do have it, I'm like, all right, that's 350, 400 calories that I just had in 3 bites, 13 seconds. And just take that into account for what I'm going to eat for the rest of the day, because I didn't really plan on having that, but I did have it. And there's no need to stress out over it. I'm not going to freak out. I just need to remember that and take it into account going into the day, the rest of the night, no big deal.
Yeah. And I think it comes back to what you were saying, like, it's all the balance. Like, I know Arnold Schwarzenegger's editor-in-chief, Adam Bornstein, just put out a book about, like, you can't mess this up, I think is the name of it. And he gets into the whole 3+2 method, where it's like, you got your breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then you got a +2. And a +1 is like half of an appetizer, 100-calorie drink, that donut. And then as long as you factor it in and balance it out elsewhere, you're fine. And that's how you can have your cake and eat it too.
Yeah, that's great. I love that.
Yeah. And I know it plays off of the precision nutrition model, but for some reason, the way he said it just sounded better and it clicked so much better.
Yeah, simple. simplicity. It's great.
Exactly. Now, I want to be respectful of your time because I know you're a busy guy, and we have gotten so much into this episode that I feel like everybody's kind of drinking from a fire hydrant right now. So, in an effort to dial it down and end on a really good note, I'm going to ask you the question that I make sure I ask every single guest before they leave.
Let's hear it.
Are you ready? Because this tells us a lot about you.
Okay.
All right. I'd like to make everybody a little nervous.
Yeah. I'm freaking out.
Okay. The question is, what is your favorite movie and why?
It's got to be Old School. I just feel like there's no other movie that I laugh at the same scenes every single time I watch it.
That's a really good pick. Earmuffs.
Yeah, the same stuff every time. I just find it funny every single time.
Yeah, it's one of those ones that's so damn quotable. You can always find a situation to say, we got to keep our composure.
Yeah, yep, 100%. You my boy, Blue. It stands the test of time.
Yep, it's a timeless classic, and honestly, now I want to go watch it. Every time somebody gives me their favorite movie, I'm like, damn, now I gotta go watch that.
Yeah, just keep the goldfish away.
Yes, no goldfish, no peanut butter either, and
that's right.
We'll make sure that we stay on track.
100%.
Awesome, man. Well, this has been an absolute blast. I had such a good time having you on, and I know everybody got a ton out of this. Now, if they're hearing your stuff for the first time, where can they find you?
Yeah, Pratt Personal Training is our Instagram handle. Pratt53 is my personal Instagram handle. And outside of that, that's about it. I don't know if I'm the best social media person out there.
I mean, you guys put out some good stuff. So I second that suggestion of going to the Instagram, because there's a lot of really good stuff there. And I'll make sure to put it all in the show notes so you guys don't have to look. Just scroll down once you're done, give it a click. But before you do that, make sure to screenshot this and tag us and tell us your favorite part of the episode, because I would love to know, and I know James would too. So on that note, hope everybody has an amazing rest of the week. Go kick some ass, and I'll see you guys next time. I actually haven't said